Hey, everybody. This is Drew Stevens here with a quick episode from Wisdom to Wealth to help you to understand something that really is important in today's society. There are many organizations that struggle, family organized businesses that struggle, and other businesses that are private and public organizations struggle, and they all struggle to the exact same thing. It all happens to be over succession planning. I read an article recently, and the article pointed to the elements that led to Prince Charles taking over for Queen Elizabeth, or may she rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. The fact is that for decades, Charles was being trained to take over the crown. And over the course of time, especially in today's time and even centuries and even decades, succession planning has always been very helpful for numerous organizations, public, private, profit, and nonprofit. You could look at the older days of GE, General Electric, that were under the helm of Jack Welch. Jack Welch did a tremendous job providing a succession plan so that when he was no longer with the company, it was systematically going to be moving in the same way that it was prior. The same thing could be held true when you look at organizations such as Catholicism. The reason being is because the popes have an electoral system now that we know with the cardinals. When the cardinals come in, they elect a new pope. Now, there's a certain reactiveness to this, but from a proactive basis, they know that when a former pope passes away, they need to get together during an enclave, and from that particular perspective with the enclave, then we move forward from there. Succession planning has always been a tremendous asset to organizations. Just a couple of facts before I illustrate some things to you, and that is that, believe it or not, 35% of organizations have formalized a succession plan for their organization. Only 35%. And I'll show you some reasons why succession planning is very helpful. And in addition to that, over 60% of executives fall victim within the first 18 months of being terminated from their original hire date because the succession plan never went through. There were two things from a human resources perspective when people get hired that some companies utilize, some don't, and that's known as onboarding. Onboarding is a systematic method in which to get people prepared for the job and getting them up and running within a relatively short amount of time. So from the perspective of why should succession planning be very helpful, I'll illustrate that to you right now. A couple of things that you need to understand, and that is, people look at succession plans as saying that, the family is always going to be involved in business if it's a family-owned business. That at some point, my kids are just going to take over. They're going to love this organization. They love what they do. Folks, that doesn't necessarily happen on a constant basis. There are family members that just absolutely abhor what the family is doing. I know somebody who has a jewelry business that's been in the family for over 40 years. The eldest son was primed to take it over, has no interest, does not care about it. The younger son, not even able to take over the business, and that's because he's got several personal issues going on. And there are other businesses that are around. It could be real estate, it could be insurance, where the family members just don't like finances, don't like having investment conversations, don't like insurance. That's fine. The fact is that if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And what I will tell you is simply this. When you look at a succession plan, at the end of the day, it is something that can either create sustainability for your business or it can literally kill your business. It's part of what I typically call something known as business killers. And that's where an organizational founder or somebody that's now working with the business doesn't take the time to really determine what are the important factors in creating a successful plan for the organization. When it all boils down to it, let me just tell you what succession planning is. Succession planning is nothing more than a systematic process to then help create some sustainability. That's exactly what Queen Elizabeth did. Queen Elizabeth said, listen, I don't know how long I'm going to be around. My father was not alive very long. If I recall, he died in his 50s. He was able to take over the crown because his brother-in-law at the time, Edward, actually abstained from the crown, and he was only in his 40s at the time. So what succession planning is just a systematic and a deliberate method of creating a sustainability plan for the future for an organization, so that it is always going to be around, hopefully always going to be around. And that's the reason for doing it. So some may say to me, what's the benefit for doing this? Number one, it helps to create decades, if not centuries, of longevity for the company itself. It creates less people leaving the company, because when there is no succession plan, people could just say this place is run amok. There's a lot of chaos here. We don't want to be around. And when it comes to a company, we're talking about attrition, and quite substantially a lot of it. Take, for example, what happened recently with Twitter. Elon Musk came in, bought the firm for $44 billion. There was no succession plan. He came in like a scene out of Frankenstein and wanted to just recreate the business. The fact is, without understanding the processes and the procedures, he wound up originally terminating thousands of employees, only to bring them back. Because when he looked around and looked at the offices and said, oh my gosh, it's empty. How the hell do I run this business? Well, you need the people to create those answers for you. So a couple of other reasons why you want to create a succession plan. Number one, I mentioned sustainability. We want to do that should somebody be ill, like COVID, like the flu, like cancer, and many other maladies that happen in today's society. Should there be a death in the family, that's another reason to create that level of sustainability. We also want to look at the talent pool. We want to increase the talent pool, and that's another rationale for creating a succession plan. Maybe there are people that are in our employ that can raise the bar and actually help us create newer opportunities, innovative opportunities, riskier opportunities that may bring out more profitability for the organization itself. But here's the other thing. By creating a succession plan, what you're also able to do is improve employee retention and also employee motivation. When you look at the Vatican and the number of individuals that have worked at the Vatican for years, because they have been in the employ of constantly moving up. They could be people in charge of the museums, they could be people in charge of the choir, doesn't matter who it is. These individuals have been there, and not many are, I shouldn't say not many, but there are several individuals that are of secular descent. They are not of the cloth, and they're still working in the Vatican every single day. It could be for television, radio, the newspapers that are provided. All of that creates a sense of interest and trust and retention capabilities. So how do you begin? Where do you begin? When do you begin? Some of the questions you may be asking yourself. Well, it's really easy. For Queen Elizabeth, she started as soon as Charles was born. In my eyes, you can't wait another day. You need to get over the fear of indecision and start making a decision. And now is the best time to start. So when we look at how to get this started, number one, you want to look at the expectations. For Queen Elizabeth, I'm not going to be here forever. I need somebody to create that sustainability in the crown. I need somebody that could work with the prime minister, somebody that could work with the House, and somebody that understands economics and politics. And she reared him to do just that. As a matter of fact, if you watch many of the things that are on television, whether it is the biographies or it's just some of the docuseries that have been on lately about Queen Elizabeth, Charles was trained to think of the crown before anything else, just like Elizabeth did. And you want to be thinking the same thing. How do you create a succession plan that actually places the business first, places the customers first, places the employees first, above the self-interest of that individual? You want to create some goals. You want to create some short-term and long-term goals so that you can create some measures of success and accountability to ensure that this plan is taking effect. The steps, real easy. You want to work with others. You want to create a team of advisors that will allow you to choose who might be the people to choose for a succession plan. You want to maybe create some levels of accountability and key performance indicators to ensure the fact that the organization is moving forward properly. And more importantly, you want it to monitor the strategy and the levels of success. You need something to ensure that there are pieces of milestones there so that when you're creating these goals, you understand how those goals are applicable to what you're wanting to create. You can choose an existing manager or you can choose somebody from the outside. It really doesn't matter. It should be someone that stands for your mission, vision, and values. It should be someone or someones that fit within the culture of the organization. And it should be individuals that are innovative, individuals that are quick to collaborate with others, individuals that are humble and willing to give a piece of themselves, and just as important, individuals that are not only transparent, but they're transformational. They could change as the need arises for the organization. The benefit at the end of the day for succession planning, you've seen. Having Charles there has not affected the crown at all. Having new popes come into existence has not changed the scope of the way that the Vatican does things. Having looked at GE and keeping people aligned one after the other has not harmed GE. And Elon Musk will find out very quickly at Twitter, he needs people to come in and take over for him. You look at succession planning, Steve Jobs did it with Tim Cook. He wanted to create a sustainable Apple, and under Tim Cook, Apple has been an incredible company. The first, if you recall, that was $1 trillion company several months ago with market capitalization. So you want to look at this as brand-proofing your company. You want to look at this as disaster-proofing your organization. And you also want to look at this as a way to lower the expense of bringing new people in and going out, and bringing in and coming out. The best thing that you can do is to create a succession plan that guarantees the continuity and the success of your business at any particular point in time. My name again is Drew Stevens. It has been my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I thank you so very much for hearing this conversation, listening to this conversation, and allowing me to be a part of your life. God bless and have a great remainder of your day.